Dr Dean Eggitt is here, GP in Doncaster, CEO of Doncaster's local medical committee. You might not have seen this story, Dr Dean. Very good morning to you. But apparently there's an MP who's a former GP who's called, I think, Chris Ofer or something like that. And he wants to he wants to prescribe football to people to cure their depression. Dr Simon Ofer, I should say, sorry. And he's got a taker with Dale Vince, our mate Dale Vince down in Gloucester, who owns Forest Green Rovers. Dale Vince is going to go along with it and say, well, they can all come to my place for free and cure themselves from depression. The only problem, of course, with Dale Vince's team is they're pretty depressing to watch, I'm afraid. What do you reckon?
Good morning, Mike. This is the first time I've heard this story, and I am utterly shocked. So I'm from Doncaster. So if I was to watch Doncaster live, there'll be highs and there's going to be lows. It's certainly not going to be ecstatic for me all of the time, and I'm not sure it's going to help me with my depression. And I work with a colleague who is a lifelong Mansfield Town fan who comes in most days and tells me how low he is because of football. So yes, watching live football is not necessarily great for the blood pressure and great for the heart and great for mental health unless you're supporting a team who's constantly on the top. Yeah. So I'm not sure I'd particularly want to prescribe this to my patients.
No, I don't think so. A couple of really interesting statistics this morning as we were looking through the morning papers. I mean, one coming up, this looming BMA strike, which is going to kick off, I think, on Friday, short of some intervention by Wes Streeting. But the one really interesting one for me is the doctors basically have their pay has soared by 91% in the last 8 years. The advertised salary for a doctor was £99,500 in May, up from £52,000 in January 2017. It's not bad, is it?
Yeah. It's fascinating, isn't it? And the mantra from the BMA is that this isn't about pay rises, this is about pay restoration. So it's about making doctors earn what they used to earn in the past, not just on pay, but in all other sorts of luxuries of life, such as lower loans, having accommodation whilst you're working at hospitals and things like that. So being a junior doctor is a really complex thing to understand. So I'm going to make it as simple as possible. So junior doctors are nowadays called resident doctors, but you can be a junior or resident doctor for up to 10 years. Right. So these junior doctors aren't always so junior. And it's really those first couple of years where the pay is particularly poor. But as you advance through those years, your pay quickly racks up. So you may find actually you've been a resident junior doctor for 10 years and you could be earning not shy off under £100,000. Right. So if we're going to restore pay for these individuals, well, because we're talking about all resident junior doctors, that pay can really skyrocket. And if you're going to add on locum extra shifts on top of that, some of the junior resident doctors are getting paid not too badly, to be fair.
Well, this is the trouble. And one of the things that I notice they do all the time, the BMA, is they don't tell you exactly how much they earn. We had one on last week, and I said to her, well, how much would you mind if I ask you, how much are you on now, and how much of a pay rise did you get the last time around with the 22%? And they never want to talk about absolute numbers. They only want to talk about rates per hour based upon, presumably, them working loads and loads of hours.
Yeah, I think it's because most doctors' pay is reasonably difficult to understand, because you get this basic pay and then you get paid for unsociable hours. So for anything you work in an evening over a weekend, right. You then get a London waiting on top of that. And then there's also these extra shifts that you may pick up along the way. So the BMA and some resident doctors like to talk about their basic pay. And the basic pay for a first-year doctor is astonishingly poor. It can be as low as just over £15 to £17 an hour. But when you put on those extra waitings, actually it goes up to £20, £22 an hour. And over the year, you're talking about £30,000 here for a junior doctor. So for that first year, it's not great pay. Bearing in mind that you might have up to £100,000 student loan, so that's pretty poor. But as we said, 10 years in, you're earning roughly about £70,000 to £80,000, and then on top of that, you may be earning extra from locum shifts too. So the pay starts poor and quickly gets pretty impressive.
And that's always been the way that it's been structured. And presumably, most people, when they go into the business of being a doctor, know that. So they know that in the first year it's not going to be great, but they also know that unlike many other professions, you will be able to make quite significant increases happen over the course of the next 4 or 5 years, you know. So, I mean, unless people are being banged over the top of the head and being told to become doctors, I don't really see what the problem is. You know, they know what they're going into. They know they're going to be working hard. They know they're going to be training for a while. They know they're going to have debt from medical school. So what's the big deal?
Well, I think the argument is that when I qualified as a doctor back in 2005, the pay was pretty much the same. It wasn't too far off. So I was being paid around £15 an hour as well. And it hasn't changed over all of that time. But you're also thinking, does an 18-year-old really know what they're going to get paid and what they're getting themselves in for? So the question that I'm asking here is, for people going into medical school, should they know a little bit more about the career and what they're getting themselves in for beforehand? Because if they don't understand the pay, do they really understand the trauma and the things that they're going to see through their life? Maybe we need to adopt a US style system where we have a pre-medical aspect to it before medicine, so that you can mature a little bit before you know what you're getting yourself in for.
Well, I would challenge that, frankly. I mean, you know what you're going to do when you're 18 or 19 or 20, and even sometimes be younger than that. I mean, you surely wouldn't have any kind of reason to not understand how the system would work. But according to this piece in the Mail, and these are figures which have been compiled by tracking median salaries in online job adverts, showing that no group of workers has seen a bigger jump than doctors, right? So the average advertised salary for a doctor was $99,500 in May, like I said, up from $52,000 in January 2017, which represents a 21,000 real terms increase, which is huge, and it's bigger than any other business that you can name. Pilots, logistics managers, printers, architects, IT technicians, project managers, you know, even cleaners. Nobody has done as well as doctors have. And I've said this before, you know, there might be people who say they want parity with what they were getting in 2008. They want it to be made up to that level. They might not even have been doctors in 2008.
Yeah, and we're talking about doctors as though they're this homogenous group, and they're not all the same. Again, it's important to remember that you may have this 10-year of being a resident doctor. So this Foundation 1 and Foundation Year 2, the first 2 years of a doctor, are really those doctors who are so very poorly paid and who are struggling financially. You know, there are 70 odd thousand resident junior doctors across England, across the UK, sorry. And if we look at those who are on the lowest pay, that's probably about 10% of them, so 7,000. So perhaps if the BMA restructured their chats rather than about all resident doctors, and we talked about this particular cohort to at this bottom end, that argument might make a little bit more sense. But to argue that all resident doctors need a pay increase just doesn't float with me.
No, I think it doesn't float with most of the public either. They're not really getting much support at the moment. It's good to talk to you, Dr Dean Eggitt, as ever. Thank you very much indeed. GP in Doncaster, CEO of Doncaster's local medical committee. He's not too sure either about that business of using football to cure depression. Not sure it's going to happen.